So on this video, I'm going to talk about euphorbias. Now the euphorbias I shall be talking about will be the ones that I grow in my own garden. I'm no expert on euphorbias, but I've been keeping them for as long as I've been gardening, and I do tend to favour certain ones. So what I thought I'd do is whip round the garden, show you the ones I've got. Some are looking good at the moment because they're in flower, but not all euphorbias flower at the same time. So we could pick any time of the year really to do this, but now is a good time. So some euphorbias are evergreen and there are some that are deciduous. So the deciduous ones die back in autumn. Now while we're in the greenhouse, we'll have a look at the ones that I've took cuttings of. These ones here were taken last May, and this is how good they are now. So that little stalk at the bottom there, that would have been the original cutting. It would have had more leaves on it, but that would have been the basic cutting. I just plunge them into compost. The gritty compost is probably better, and it's probably best doing it in May as a cutting, and just forget about them. So these are Wolfenii, or Caracias, with Wolfenii coming through. I've kept them in the greenhouse this long because in previous years I've lost all my cuttings in bad winters. As it happens, though, this year it hasn't been too bad, so they may have survived quite well outside. So this is how I would have took the other cutting I've just shown you. It would have been just one long stick like that. This particular one is one I'm going to show you later as well. This is the cuttings off my own seed-raised one, or chance seedling, many years ago, and it's called Euphorbia, Caracias, Wolfenii, Malachi. But to make it shorter, we'll just call it Euphorbia Malachi. So that's that one. So that's a real good one, but I'll show you its parent as we go up the garden. Now this one here is a particularly good type. I like to now call these my walking stick euphorbias because they tend to come up in long sort of walking stick type growth. This particular one is one called Euphorbia Donii, and it has this lovely red edge to it that you can make out on the leaf there. There are other ones that I'll show you that are doing just the same or similar thing. And this is quite a nice one to get hold of. It can make quite a big clump, so you need to bear that in mind when you are getting one of those, but nevertheless, it's pretty good. So we'll walk out and show you around as we go up the garden to show you, give you some sort of a indication where I keep these sort of things. So this is well, it's two borders really, this one. The long border to the right, and to the left is the Carl Forster border. And I've got, how many euphorbias? Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 euphorbias in here, really. This one here is Euphorbia Wolfenii, and it's called Black Pearl. And it's a really nice one. That's definitely worth getting. It's one of the smaller, one of the squatter ones that you could get as far as Wolfenii is concerned. But it's very nice. Now, it's called Black Pearl because of those black eyes in the seed. That's the seed that you can see there, or will be the seed, once it's been pollinated. Now, what pollinates them? Well, flies. In fact, I've just seen one over here. I don't know whether here it is. So, I don't know if you can make that out. There you go. So, flies actually pollinate these. And the odd butterfly you might find on there as well. So, that will be, what, 2 foot by 3 foot maybe eventually? 2 foot wide, 3 foot high, or vice versa. Who knows? It alters depending on your garden. Now I'm going to show you this one, but this one is going to be removed, and we'll show you a better version of this. This is a euphorbia called Purpurea, and it's at the end of its time really. You can see all the dead stuff inside. It's at the end of its life, and what it'll do now is it'll spread those seed around. I shall allow it to do that this year, and then I will simply lift it and remove it. There's no more goodness in that. It's done. So this is the Carl Forster border that I've shown many times. And here we go. We've got a lovely big euphorbia here. That's 4 foot tall in flower. And he's looking absolutely fantastic as the sun's hitting it. And again, it has kind of a dark eye to it. And as you can see, flies on it. because they pollinate it. They're all over it. And this wasn't the best one really, but it's turned out to be quite a nice one. Now, there's Amish sat next to another euphorbia. And this is a Wolfenii. This is a euphorbia called Bob Brown, or Bob Brown Selection. And he's selected quite a nice euphorbia actually. And it's got some lovely new growth in there. So this new growth in here is where I will take more cuttings from this year. And remember I said May. And I'll keep repeating May so that you know when the best time is. But again, it depends which part of the country you're in. So I'm in the middle of England, so May would be a good time for me. And it has some quite, I should say, little flat-headed seed heads on this one, or flowers. It's both really. The flower is the seed head. And it makes a lovely clumping plant that goes in any border. These things definitely go in most borders. This is why I always sing the praises. This one's in the Cal Forster border as well. And what I like about it is the firm shape of it, the rigidity as opposed to the grasses. So when the grasses get going taller and you see them swaying around, you'll see that the euphorbia sits quite nicely with them. So that's those two. Now, just round the corner here, next to the cloister pergola, let's just show you the cloister pergola as it is at this time. Don't forget we're in April at the moment. So nothing's completely grown yet. Now this is a bit like the Donii that I showed you, but this one's called Excalibur. And again, what I call a walking stick euphorbia. But it's really, really nice, this one. I love it. This one gets to about 4 foot, maybe 5 foot, and then it flowers on the top. But then flowers won't come out just yet. But that would be a wonderful one to get if you really want to get into them. One of its failings, to be quite honest, is that it can become a bit lax. So don't put it into some enriched soil. It would probably do better in some sort of a, well, I'd suggest a gravel garden or something like that, where it could do quite well. So I bought this one at the end of last year, and it's supposedly a really good cultivar. It's called Euphorbia Miners Merlot. Let's show you the label. The label is still with it, so we can show you that, and it gives us a better description because it is new to me, so I don't really know it. So there you go. A new variety forms a low bush of striking burgundy foliage, yellow flowers in spring, up to 60 centimetres, fertile, well drained, in a sunny position. And that's what I've given it. And it is really nice. Now, I was a bit disappointed as winter came because I thought I was going to lose this one. But it's managed to hang on in there, so I'm quite happy with that. So when it gets to, what did it say, 60 centimetres? Yes, 600 mil. So we're looking at probably half again on top of that, as far as the growth is concerned anyway. So that looks great. Now, while we're stood here, we'll look at this one, because I love this one, and I know it's my own. And this is the one I talked about in the greenhouse. This one here is Euphorbia Wolfenii, and it is one that I call Malachi. Now, I used to have loads and loads of different Euphorbias when I lived at Malachi Cottage in Osgoodby in Lincolnshire. And obviously you're going to get progeny because they're very promiscuous. And you'll find all different types of seedlings. And I found this one as a bluer form. It just looked good at the time. I just liked the look of the little seedling because I had loads of seedlings around, but there was two in particular, one a greener form and this a bluer form that looked really good. So I selected it. Now, for the last 4 years, it's refused to flower. Oh, look at that little pretty bee on there. Isn't that pretty? Anybody knows the name of that? Let me know. So, I digress. So, it has little purpley tinges to the edge of the leaves. So those tinges, I think, because of this. And this one's called Purple and Gold. Now, I'm not showing you this one at a good time. In fact, it's a terrible time. I've been searching for absolutely ages now. Well, probably 5-10 years since I last had Purple and Gold. In fact, the last time I did have it was when I was at Malachi Cottage. which produced that. And I had this one and several other good ones. Now, I think that purple and gold is one of the parent plants. The other one, I don't know. I had too many others. Not sure what it could be. Right, what else have we got here? Oh, here we go. Look, we're not far away from this. This is fantastic. This has been by far the best seedling that I've had so far from purpurea. So it's Euphorbia purpurea. It gets bigger than that. If you remember down the garden, I showed you a version that was pretty much done, pretty much over. And this is the progeny it produces. And this has been the darkest by far that I've found. So it's looking really nice. It'll get taller than this, but not a lot, because it's been restricted by the wall that's next to it. And that can have an impact on them. So just remember that when you're planting them out. Okay, next to it is another one. Now, this is an unusual one that I allow to seed all over the place because it always comes true. And it's called Euphorbia mercenites. And it has this long, drawn-out stem that goes to the flower, as you can see. And then what they do later on in the year, they will pop those seeds off and off they go. And then what I do with these ones is once they've got to that phase, I take out, let's show you, I take away that full stem would go in favour, as you can see, all the new growth. So I'll do it in favour of that new growth, which next year will be the new seed heads. So that's Euphorbias mercenites, fantastic. And it's fantastic for a gravel garden, if you've got a gravel garden. Do allow it to seed around. So we'll take you to a real weird one now. So this one's Euphorbias sarawashanica. Bit of a mouthful. And again, I'll call this one of my walking stick Euphorbias. And I've had to put this on, and this is going to contain it as it gets taller, because this one definitely flops around. And don't let that put you off. If you've got time to just create some sort of a thing to support them, it's worth doing often. I know it can be a bit of a pain, but you know, you've got to bear with it sometimes and just go with it. So that's going to get to, I'd say again, 4 foot. Produces massive flower heads on it. Sort of sparsely flowered, but massive. So they're quite nice, them ones. And that's probably more for your collector, that particular one. Now, while we're stood here, we'll have a look at this one. This is the one that I said might make it, might not make it. Very difficult to know, because this really requires a warmer section in the garden, which I've given it. This is about the best section I could give this particular one. And it's a Euphorbia cross pasteurei. Becomes more of a big shrub than an actual euphorbia, but these euphorbias are what we call sub-shrubs, so they're kind of shrubs, but they're not shrubs. And I can see now it's going to just do too well here, but it's where it needed to be, so I may have to move some of the plants around it. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to do that, because I've got a few new ones in here that I was hoping to keep where they are, but they will need to be moved. That's Monada and that's Gawitawalk. It's fantastic, that one. And as you can see to the right there, I've taken a cutting off that already, or a split. Did that about a month ago. I got 3 plants out of that little bit. But that is an amazing one. Anyway, we're not talking about them types of plants. We're talking about Euphorbias. So that is going to be a bit of a monster, really. If it does get to where it should be, it will become probably a 6 to 7 foot shrubby looking plant, but it's just amazing. If you've got a jungle garden, if you're into jungle gardens, this one here would be a very good choice, but needs a bit of protection. And behind it, you can see there's another Euphorbia purpurea, and as I said, they all come up different sort of colours. A lot of them won't go purple until the winter, which is why I quite like the one that I've just shown you a minute ago. So while we're down in this border, and this is the boardwalk border, everything's coming on nice, everything's growing lovely, we'll show you this one. And this is Euphorbia palustris, or the marsh euphorbia. And it does like wet conditions. Starts off as little stubby flower heads, and they look really nice once they first start and come up. And it produces this, and it's going to get another, I think from past experience, probably make 3 to 4 foot, that one. and will pretty much remain in flower most of that time, or has done in the last 3 years, but it's a really nice one. So if you've got a wet area, that's probably a good choice and one to go for. Next to it, this is a cutting of my own Euphorbia Malachi. And look, you can see why I like it. Now I did selectively prune it once it started on the go, but I only took 1 or 2 little bits off the bottom because they were a bit unkempt. Now this is a better example of showing you what it does on the edges. The purpley bit, the purpley tones there. I'm hoping that this one will flower, because I know it does flower, but it's the big parent plants refuse. Well, I say that's a parent plant. It's not the parent plant. That's a cutting of the cutting of the cutting. In fact, many cuttings ago. And they seem to refuse to flower, but I did find the small one in the greenhouse had flowered. So maybe it requires a bit more heat to get them going. I wouldn't be bothered if it didn't flower. I like the shape of it. It has a good shape, as you can see. Looks fantastic in a mixed border, as I said earlier, and it just looks good. As summer comes on, that will get bluer tones in the leaf itself, so it'll look absolutely superb. So we'll just pan you around here to show you what's going on at the minute here. Tulips are looking good. There's another Euphorbia, another selected seedling, just a selected seedling, nothing special. We don't have to always go for variety types. What you will find with varieties is that they have been specially selected to look better, whereas that is just your bog standard type, but is more bluer in the leaf, and I tend to go for the bluer ones. As you can see there, that flower is damaged. That's wind damage or something like that, or is probably because it's one of the older ones, one of the older flowers. And that's what happens. Now, once these flowers have gone over again, I will clip them all back in. But what I tend to do with some of them is I tend to lose the flowers pretty quick, because you get loads of these as seedlings. So you've got to be very careful. Very careful. It's very, very successful, which is fine with me. But I don't want to tell you it's not a bit of a successful plant when it is. You'll find seedlings everywhere, but they are dead easy to remove. Is there any around it? So I don't tend to find too many around it. I find them at a good distance away, because what happens, that seed head will pop in sort of June, July time and explode the seed up the garden or into one of the boards or wherever it happens to be. And then often you'll find that ants pick those seeds up and wander off into another border, which is why some people find it quite confusing that it could be 20 foot away when they ain't got a plant anywhere near there. And that's generally the reason. Probably not the only reason, but the reason that I'm giving you. Okay, so we'll wander back up here and we'll show you that Euphorbia purpurea, and you can see why I really like it, because it's remaining quite deep and purple and quite small. And there you go, that's lovely. Now there's one here, while we're here, there's another Euphorbia here. Now I'm trying to scratch my head to think what it was, because I didn't plant it here. It was already in the garden. They had 2 small borders in this garden, and this came up on year 2 of us living here. So I will put that up on the screen. I'll be honest and say I cannot remember what that variety is. But be careful if you do go with this one, because this one is more aggressively a spreader and probably could cause some problems for some of you. So just be careful if you do get that one. But remember, everything can be controlled. Now here's a seedling, and we don't know what this is a seedling from. It could be Martinii, I don't know. It just happened to have a really nice look about it and a nice leaf, and it remains a nice leaf as well. It's got some red flushes in there, so I suspect it's just, could be just Martinii, but we'll see. We don't know yet. You've got to give it time. It's a seedling, and I only found it at the end of last year, but I've put it there so I can keep my eye on it and see what's going on. Okay, so let's have a look in this border. Yes, here we go. And this is why I think that seedling might just be Martinii, because this here is Euphorbia Martinii. Now that will get to about 2 foot by 2 foot. These are babies that only went in a short time ago. So Euphorbia Martinii is a really nice one. A very nice one, in fact. Now, new to me last year is this one here. So I've yet to assess it, whether it's any good. I don't know. Let's sit down. And this one is called Euphorbia pekinensis. And I love the leaf colour on this, and especially in autumn, it goes lovely tones in autumn, tones of purpley red. And the flowers are purpley red flushed as well, and more flat-headed. And they look really nice. I can see from there that it's producing some little leaves at the bottom. Maybe they might be ripe for taking cuttings. But I shall leave the other ones because really they're flower heads, or there will be flower heads. These will become flowers. So that'd be nice. But for now, we'll leave it alone because it's, yeah, like I say, I only got it last year. So now we'll go into the nook. Now, for those who follow me, I've put a new door on, as you can see. The other door, as beautiful as it was causing major problems. It was making the whole of this, what I call the pillbox, lean one way. So we've put another door on because it's a lot lighter. The sheet down there is because I've been treating it this morning. So that's done. Right, where are we now? So we're now in the nook, and this one is an absolute stunner. It really is. I've mentioned this several times, this particular one. This one's called Euphorbia whistleberry garnet. And the whistleberry garnet colour refers to when it first comes up. But it has this lovely dark look in the leaf at the moment. These lovely straight and strong flowers that look amazing. Now, apparently, if you cut these off down at the base, down here somewhere, dunk them into hot water, it seals them up and you can put them into your flower arrangements. So we'll look at it from here, and as you can see, it's lovely. It really is. And I had this in one of my sheep feeders last year, or the year before, and decided that it was way too aggressively spreading, or successfully spreading, more than I wanted. And I only put 2 little bits in there, can you believe? But look how well it's done. So it's a real successful one. Now in here, it can do what it wants because it can't do any more than go up there. Because on this path here, that's got membrane under it, so it's unlikely to be able to go through that. But there, it can do what it wants. Even if it goes to the other side of that hedge, it's fine, because that's just grass on the other side. It's a grass verge. So it'll be fine. Now, this has 2 parentages of what they think were parents, one of them being Martinii, one that I showed you earlier, and one called Robbii. It's supposed to have the best of both parents. Robbii is a bit of a spreader, but is a very nice looking plant. Martinii, as you saw, was a lovely reddish colour, and I suspect that's where the whistleberry garnet comes in, because when it starts off it has this lovely garnet colour. But I'm growing to love this one more and more, and at the moment it's 3 foot, so I'm growing to love it more and more because it just looks so good in the nook. So this one will take shade and won't be too bothered about it either. So we'll walk out of the nook, back through the new door, and we'll wander up here. I'm trying to think if there's any other euphorbias that I probably haven't shown you, and I think I've probably gone through them all. All I'll be doing now is just repeating what I'm saying. Oh no, I've got one more to show you, so bear with me. Now this is Euphorbia excalibur, and you can see already it's starting to get taller, starting to splay out slightly, and this is what I said, when it gets to that sort of size, it will splay out. Now, I note there's a little seedling there from it, looks very similar to the parent plant, so what I shall do with that, I shall dig that out, pot it up. I'll give it a bit longer yet, because I've learned from experience to leave them alone for a bit and let them produce a couple of leaves or a couple of shoots. They tend to do a lot better if you can do that. So that's really nice. And then the only other one I can think of at the moment, and I'm sure I've covered them all, is this one here, and I particularly like this one. And this is the pincushion euphorbia, and this one is called Euphorbia epithymoides, which is quite a mouthful. So I'll be putting all these names up on screen, hopefully I've not missed any, because it is quite a mouthful, and it carries on like this for weeks, if not months, and it's been doing this since January, believe it or not. They were a lot tighter, obviously. They were only just coming out of the ground at that point, but it looks absolutely amazing. This flower is lovely, and especially when the sun's lighting it. So, I think that's it. I think that's as much as I can show you on Euphorbias. I've got them all over the place. I've got another Euphorbia Excalibur down there. I love them so much. Fantastic. And then Donny Eye, which is very similar, but he's not the same. And you can't tell that until they get going. Donny Eye is there. That's Donny Eye. And it can be quite a bit of a spreader. So you need to be wary of that and maybe stop it in its tracks as and when required. So that's a little talk on Euphorbias. Hope you find them as interesting as I do. I didn't intend to get so many Euphorbias. It's just happened over time, as these things do with gardeners. I'm a bit of a grass man, as you know, but Euphorbias, if I hadn't been more of a grass man, I think I would have gone into Euphorbias more, because there's thousands of varieties. All worth getting, or at least one type is worth getting. What would I recommend? I would recommend Martinii. So Euphorbia Martinii will be a nice little choice. This one, or not this particular variety, because this isn't available on the market because it's my own. This is Euphorbia Malachi, but Euphorbia Wolfenii. There are particularly good ones out there anyway. The Bob Brown one you saw is available online, and another one called Umpty Dumpty. Can you believe? And yes, does look like Umpty Dumpty, or the shape of Umpty Dumpty. So it would be worth getting. That one is wonderful. Small, I would go for Euphorbia purpurea, which is that. That's very small. And also Euphorbia mercenites, which is that one there. And they're very small, so they would not be too difficult to control for yourselves. Miner's Merlot, I cannot say yet. I've got to give it another, 2 years really, before I make my mind up whether that one's going to be any good. I think it is. Looks promising. So there you go. A little bit about Euphorbias. I'll touch on the next one. Ta-da!